This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, September 24th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump has blasted the United Nations in his return to the General Assembly.
Countries are going to hell.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President Trump cancels his meeting with Democratic leaders, setting up a potential government shutdown next week. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A man accused of trying to assassinate Donald Trump last year at Trump's West Palm Beach Country Club has been found guilty. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Pressure mounting for big media companies in America.
I think that they sold out.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks open after a losing day yesterday, but the indexes are still very near record highs. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Major League Baseball has approved use of the automated ball strike system in the major leagues in 2026. I'm Geffen Coolbaugh.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump returns to the United Nations, a trip that included a few building hiccups when an escalator stopped when he was on it, and his teleprompter didn't work when at the podium. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the president did not hold back on criticisms of the UN and ripped the body for failing to live up to its potential.
President Trump has blasted the United Nations in his return to the General Assembly.
All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle, and then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter.
6 years after his last address, the president ripped it as coming nowhere close to reaching its potential, describing a feckless institution that writes stern letters.
For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action.
Over nearly an hour, the president offered jarring juxtapositions, billing himself as a peacemaker who ended wars.
Everyone says that I should get the Nobel Peace Prize.
To touting military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities and Caribbean drug smugglers.
We will blow you out of existence.
And also issued a warning to European leaders over migration and green energy policies.
If you don't stop people that you've never seen before, that you have nothing in common with, your country is going to fail. I'm the president of the United States, but I worry about Europe. I love Europe. I love the people of Europe. And I hate to see it being devastated by energy and immigration. This double-tailed monster destroys everything in its wake, and they cannot let that happen any longer. You're doing it because you want to be nice. You want to be politically correct, and you're destroying your heritage.
Saying Europeans must stop having open borders, or else.
Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody is ever, and nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The prospect of a government shutdown at the end of the month looks more likely after President Trump cancels a meeting scheduled for later this week with Democratic congressional leaders. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
In a social media post Tuesday, the president called demands by Democrats unserious and ridiculous and accused them of threatening to shut the government down unless they can have over $1 trillion in new spending for health care and on other policies that promote their, quote, radical left views. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says that's ridiculous.
The statement that Donald Trump issued today was unhinged, and it related to issues that have nothing to do with the spending bill that is before the Congress and the need to try to avoid a government shutdown. Nothing to do.
Trump did not close the door on a future meeting, but said it would only happen when Democrats, quote, become realistic about the things our country stands for. In a post on X, Jeffries accused the president of chickening out and told reporters later Democrats want to restore health care to millions who they say are denied care under the big, beautiful bill.
Democrats do not support the partisan Republican spending bill because it continues to gut the health care of the American people. Our country is in the midst of an unprecedented Republican health care crisis.
Republican Congressman Eric Burleson told Real America's Voice Democrats would be the ones responsible for a shutdown if it were to happen.
This is the most reasonable approach that Republicans can take on this. Look, I'm not a big fan of continuing resolutions. The Democrats have always supported these clean seat continuing resolutions. In fact, they've supported one in the spring. So they're in a box.
House Republicans passed a clean continuing resolution last week, but enough Democrats opposed it in the Senate. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Jeffries had demanded a meeting with Trump to discuss a compromise over health care funds. President Trump said essential services would remain open if there is a government shutdown on October 1st. John Stolnis, Washington.
Kimmel is live again, but not everywhere. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Showers expected in the east today. Here's the national forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
The continuation of a persistent pattern does mean more wet weather today from the plains eastward than for areas west of the Rockies. This includes a zone where thunderstorms may turn severe today and tonight, stretching from the Corpus Christi area of Texas towards Cincinnati, Ohio, much of Tennessee, and all but southeastern Louisiana. Storms will be capable of producing strong winds, hail, and tornadoes, as well as the risk for flooding, especially in some of the areas that have already had flood concerns from Arkansas into Oklahoma. Other parts of this general area will simply end up with much needed rain, especially through the Mississippi River Valley, where this rain should help to reverse some of the drying trend of recent weeks. For the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, showers do make it closer to the coast today, even clearing the coast in some areas as a rather complicated pattern finally brings the return of an extended wet stretch in this region. There may even be some thunder by this afternoon from western Massachusetts and Connecticut, north and west to around Syracuse, New York. However, the western U.S. won't be completely dry today, thanks to a storm sitting off the central coast of California for much of the day before pushing inland to the south of San Francisco this evening. This feature will still be close enough during the day to lift more moisture into California, helping to produce showers and some thunderstorms from the Bay Area along the coast to northern Santa Barbara County and as far inland as the Central Valley, even some parts of the Sierra Nevada foothills. That should be the vast majority of precipitation to the west of the Rockies, though, with warm to hot conditions spreading from Arizona into much of the northwest. In Nashville, watch for clouds and showers today with a heavy thunderstorm that may be severe with a high getting up to 82. For Elko, Nevada, today instead brings warmth, sunshine, and a high of 83. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A Florida jury finds Ryan Routh guilty of an assassination attempt against then-presidential candidate Donald Trump. However, as Lisa Dwyer reports, it was what happened after the verdict was read that had those in the courtroom shocked.
A man accused of trying to assassinate Donald Trump last year at Trump's West Palm Beach Country Club has been found guilty. A jury convicted Ryan Routh on all counts. Routh faced charges that included attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate and possessing a firearm as a convicted felon.
It was really well handled, and it's very important. You can't let things like that happen. Nothing to do with me, but a president or even a person. You can't allow that to happen. And so justice was served.
After jurors began leaving the courtroom, Routh grabbed a pen and started to try to stab himself in the neck.
Mr. Routh grabbed the pen and started stabbing toward his neck. Didn't look like he drew any blood, but the marshals that were in the courtroom immediately rushed over, grabbed him, escorted him out of the courtroom.
Prosecutors say that Routh spent weeks plotting to kill Trump before aiming a rifle at Trump on September 15, 2024. Routh, who defended himself in court, claimed that he never intended to kill anyone, saying he had opportunities but never pulled the trigger. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The return of Jimmy Kimmel Live to late-night TV doesn't include all ABC affiliates. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Sinclair and Nexstar say they won't bring the show back on their ABC affiliates. Jimmy Kimmel was suspended by ABC's parent company Disney over remarks surrounding the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The move came amid criticism from the chairman of the FCC, who called Kimmel's comments a very, very serious issue. Some Americans are concerned that big American media companies are silencing free speech.
That sounds kind of like dangerous.
Buddy Luce helped organize a protest outside the Nexstar headquarters near Dallas this week.
You know, I think that they sold out and bellied up and kneeled and, did what they needed to do to try to get their merger done.
Luce and other critics pointing to the current media landscape. Nexstar is currently working to acquire Tegna, and Sinclair also considering a potential merger in the industry. I'm Clayton Neville.
When we return on America in the Morning, after disparaging comments from the White House, Tylenol shares spike after these messages. With the Midweek Business Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a losing day for stocks yesterday. Both the Dow and the S&P 500 index, though, each hit intraday record highs before they pulled back. And as the stock market keeps hitting these all-time highs, some people are starting to worry that too much of the winning is being done by too few of the stocks.
NVIDIA and Apple are now 14% of the S&P 500. That is their highest combined weighting ever.
Ritholtz Wealth's Josh Brown on CNBC.
People look at that and think it's unprecedented because they haven't seen a chart of GE and AT&T a few decades back. People think that it's some bizarre anomaly that the Mag 7 is 35% of the S&P 500 because they don't understand the history. Every bull market has had concentrated winners at the top.
The Mag 7 he's talking about is the group of Magnificent Seven stocks. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Google, parent Alphabet, NVIDIA, Netflix, and Broadcom jumping in. Some say Tesla has slipped out. The S&P 500 index tracks the 500 biggest publicly traded companies in which you can buy shares. And many investors think they're getting a broad basket of stocks when they buy that S&P 500 index fund. But around 7 names do make up about a third of the value of that index. Investors who are hedging their bets in this hot stock market are buying some gold. It hit yet another all-time high yesterday, $3,824 an ounce.
There is this underlying skittishness that is there. I do think when it comes to things like gold, I think that's where you see some of that express itself.
TD Cowen's Lisa Thomas on CNBC. The Trump administration has linked autism to Tylenol use during pregnancy. Tylenol maker Kenvue shares were higher yesterday, rebounding after medical groups said their research shows no link. Here's former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb on CNBC with Becky Quick.
Does Tylenol cause autism?
Well, this has been extensively studied. There was a study in JAMA in 2024 with 2.48 million siblings, showed no correlation. There's been some small studies suggesting that there could be a correlation. Worthy of further study, but there is no clear evidence that it causes autism for women who take it during pregnancy. And if you look at utilization rates in pregnancy of Tylenol over the last 20 years, it's gone down. So there was about 70% utilization of Tylenol in pregnancy in the administration, so people who might have only used it a few times. Now it's about 60%, and over that time period, autism rates have gone up, not down. So it doesn't suggest there's a correlation.
On today's watch list, earnings are coming from RV maker Thor Industries and home builder KB Home. Target opens the application website for seasonal holiday work. And the Ryder Cup Celebrity U.S. versus Europe match is today.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger, thank you. Coming to Major League Baseball, robot umpires. They're safe when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Florida's governor is scouting out a possible home for a future Donald Trump presidential library. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing to establish President Trump's presidential library in an iconic stretch of downtown Miami, a parcel of land adjacent to the Freedom Tower, a historic building rising alongside the glitzy condos facing palm tree-lined Biscayne Bay, but also the site of protests against the president's immigration policies. In a video posted to social media, State Attorney General James Uffmeyer touted the plan.
Florida will be blessed to house the presidential library for one of our very own state residents and to be a part of preserving such meaningful history.
Florida's cabinet is slated to vote on the plan on September 30th. Earlier this year, DeSantis signed a bill to preempt local governments from blocking development of a presidential library. I'm Julie Walker.
The umpire will still be behind home plate, but they'll now get a robotic assist. Robot umpiring is officially headed to Major League Baseball. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh reports.
Major League Baseball's 11-man competition committee has approved use of the automated ball strike system in the major leagues in 2026. Human umpires will still call balls and strikes, but teams can challenge 2 calls per game. Challenges must be made by a pitcher, catcher, or batter. A team retains its challenge if successful. Reviews will be shown as digital graphics on outfield video boards. Adding robot umpires could reduce ejections, as most are related to balls and strikes. The system has been tested in the minor leagues since 2019. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Yet another possible change to the H-1B visa program.
Companies are going to pay a lot of money for that.
I'm Rich Johnson.
The former vice president seemingly doubling down on harsh words for the current commander-in-chief. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Secret Service dismantles a massive hidden telecom network in New York. Julie Walker, New York.
A federal judge orders the Trump administration to restore $500 million in federal grant funding to UCLA. I'm Mike Hempen.
YouTube admits to censoring right-wing voices. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Kimmel has returned to the air, but the conversation about free speech is far from over. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Early autumn thunderstorms are in the offing. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Here's the forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A somewhat complex setup continues to lead to no shortage of showers and thunderstorms today, most numerous from Louisiana to eastern Kansas and north and east from there through the Ohio Valley. Near and ahead of a couple of fronts in the area, Gulf moisture will be on the fast track into part of this area, and that extra fuel for thunderstorms will help to spark another day with a localized risk for severe weather. AccuWeather severe weather experts say that the highest chance for severe storms will build from southeast Texas to southwestern Ohio and far western West Virginia, where an 8 storm today and tonight may be able to produce hail, damaging wind gusts of 55 to 65 miles per hour, even the risk for some tornadoes. Of course, some of this zone has had a rather wet start to the week, including parts of the Mississippi Valley that really did need the rain after quite a dry stretch. So other than the risk for flooding where too much beneficial rain has fallen at once, today's continued rounds of rainfall should help to close some of the rainfall gap that has resulted in intense drought conditions. Another zone getting some needed rain will be the northeast, where showers should become more widespread through the day. Near another part of the same storm bringing severe weather to the south and west of this region, the thunder risk should be generally more limited in the northeast today, but any thunderstorms may bring an enhanced downpour and more of the rain that many places could use. These won't be the only places where there could be some wet weather, though. Much of Florida carries the risk for an afternoon thunderstorm, and portions of central and west Texas could have a storm at any time today. In addition, another push of moisture into California will combine with a disturbance just off California's central coast to help spark some showers, even some thunderstorms near and to the south of the San Francisco Bay Area as that storm gradually pushes on shore. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Listen on your preferred platform when you search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. While the Palestinian issue and Gaza was a big focus at the United Nations General Assembly, the war in Ukraine was also front and center with a meeting between President Trump and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports Zelensky, speaking exclusively with Fox News after the Trump meeting, says it's clear that the U.S. position on Russia has changed, and it's up to Russia to understand that Vladimir Putin's ambitions will not be won on the battlefield.
Today, we had good conversation with President Trump, and I think he understands for today that we can't just swap territories. It's not fair. It's not real.
So you think his position has changed?
Yes, I think so. And God bless it. I really count on this, on continuation of his attitude to the territorial question and the question of our sovereignty. So the question how to stop the war is just to stop Putin's ambitions, to change his position to this war.
President Trump has made a major shift from his earlier calls for Ukraine to give up land lost to Russia. For months, the president's insisted Kyiv will have to make concessions as part of any peace deal.
For the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff.
But after meeting with President Volodymyr Zelensky at the UN, the president hailed Ukraine's efforts in a fight he says was only projected to last about 3 days and has instead gone on about 3.5 years.
It's been a terrible war, should have ended, and Russia should have stopped it. But they've been 3.5 years and they've gotten not so far. So we'll see what happens, but the other side can fight too, and they've proven that. Maybe it could be that Russia's a paper tiger. I don't know what they are, but 3.5 years of fighting and killing everybody, of killing 7,000 people a week for nothing.
And writes on social media he thinks Ukraine, with European and NATO support, can win back all the land it lost. If the president's support sticks, it's a huge win for Zelensky, who's been urging the U.S. to boost pressure on Vladimir Putin to end the war.
Disposal of Trump is a big shift.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Trump administration is proposing even more changes to the H-1B visa program. Details from correspondent Rich Johnson.
The new proposal would replace the current lottery system for highly skilled workers with a weighted process, giving preference to higher skilled and higher paid foreign workers. The proposal comes just days after President Trump signed an executive order imposing a one-time $100,000 fee on new H-1B visas. At last week's signing ceremony, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick explained the reasoning.
This will ensure that the people they're bringing in are actually very highly skilled and that they're not replaceable by American workers. So it'll protect American workers, but ensure that companies have a pathway to hire truly extraordinary people and bring them to the United States.
And the president said it will help those who come from overseas to study in the U.S.
One of the biggest problems we have is that people, they go to the best schools and they do great and they get great marks and then they're thrown out of the country. You're not allowed to stay. This way, a corporation will be able, sort of like a signing bonus in baseball or football, a corporation will be able to get them to stay in the country.
Critics say the fee, coupled with weighting the granting of visas to the very highly skilled, will give an advantage to big corporations at the expense of startups and smaller firms. Trump last week indicated he's good with that.
And in many cases, these companies are going to pay a lot of money for that, and they're very happy about it.
India, the biggest source of high-tech talent to the U.S., may benefit in the long run as it develops more in-country tech hubs that would contract with U.S. firms, what's been coined exporting brains without bodies. And on October 1st, China will begin issuing K visas to skilled workers, not just in tech, but in education and research. Unlike the U.S. H-1B, China's K visas will not be linked to a specific employer or job. I'm Rich Johnson.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris is catching criticism from the White House over a word she recently used to describe President Trump. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Former Vice President Kamala Harris's book, 107 Days, was released this week and details her presidential campaign after then-President Joe Biden dropped out of the race last summer.
And right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant.
Touting her book, she spoke with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow and was asked about a line in the book that says Harris did not predict the capitulation of billionaires, media companies, and law firms, as she described bending the knee to Trump.
We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump.
She said she couldn't blame big business for feeling threatened by the president. The White House bit back and put out a statement on social media that read, quote, "sick" in all caps, followed by a link to the MSNBC interview. During that one-on-one with Maddow, the former vice president was asked about a portion of the book that says sexuality played a factor in not choosing Pete Buttigieg as her running mate.
To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No, that's not what I said. That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay.
Harris clarified.
I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor, to be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
The release of Harris's book has drawn speculation over whether she's mulling a political comeback or if she's playing the blame game in her failed bid for the presidency. I'm Clayton Neville.
Telecom threat to begin the UN General Assembly and uncovering Biden censoring free speech. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. With world dignitaries and President Trump all in Midtown Manhattan for the UN General Assembly, the Secret Service was able to find and dismantle a telecom threat that could have thrown New York City into chaos. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
The Secret Service dismantles a massive hidden telecom network in New York. Investigators say while they have not uncovered a plot to disrupt the UN General Assembly, the system could be used for that by blacking out cell service and jamming 911 calls.
We're going to run down every single lead. We want to identify, locate, and take down these criminals that are setting up these networks. My message to them is, if you're involved in this, we're coming for you.
Matt McCool is the special agent in charge of the New York office.
Definitely nation state, foreign governments, communicating over that network to known criminals in the United States and known organized crime, known cartels, and terrorist groups were using this network.
The cache was made up of over 300 SIM servers with more than 100,000 SIM cards. It was uncovered as part of a Secret Service investigation into telecommunications threats targeting senior government officials. Julie Walker, New York.
Despite objections from parents, the Texas girls' camp adjacent to the one that was nearly washed away by a July flood will reopen next year. Camp Mystic was where 27 kids and counselors were killed when the fast-rising Guadalupe River floodwaters roared through their camp without warning in overnight hours. The camp, located in an area that was nicknamed Flash Flood Alley, announced they would also build a memorial to the girls who died. It was Camp Mystic parents who pushed the Texas legislature to pass bills to improve safety for structures in low-lying areas, have camp operators develop better emergency plans, and install early warning flood detection systems. America in the Morning continues. A federal judge has overturned a Trump administration funding cut for a California college. Correspondent Mike Hempen reports.
A federal judge orders the Trump administration to restore $500 million in federal grant funding to UCLA. U.S. District Judge Rita Lynn has issued a preliminary injunction saying the government likely violated the Administrative Procedure Act that requires specific procedures and explanations for federal funding cuts. UCLA says the Trump administration suspended $584 million in federal grants over allegations of civil rights violations related to anti-Semitism and affirmative action. Last month, Len issued a ruling that restored $81 million in grants to UCLA. The Trump administration has used its control of federal funding to push for reforms at elite colleges that the president thinks are overrun by liberalism and anti-Semitism. I'm Mike Hempen.
Shopping giant Amazon and the Federal Trade Commission will be squaring off in trial. The lawsuit filed in 2023 by the Biden administration alleges that Amazon deceived tens of millions of customers into signing up for its Prime subscription program and sabotaged their attempts to cancel it. Launched in 2005, Amazon's Prime program has grown to become one of the most popular subscription services in the world, with more than 200 million members globally. And it's generated billions of dollars for the company. The trial's being held in federal court in Seattle, just miles from Amazon's corporate offices. And in our tech report today, Chuck Palm reports the parent company of Google and YouTube has admitted to a House committee that the Biden White House pressured them to censor content from conservative voices on topics like COVID-19 and the 2020 election.
Alphabet, Google's parent company, fessed up in a letter to White House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan that the Biden admin had pressured them to scrub COVID-19 and 2020 election content, even when it didn't break the rules. Google's coming clean on the censorship scandal that had the Biden White House twisting arms, and now they're inviting back banned voices. Google had yanked over 8,000 YouTube channels and demonetized outlets like The Federalist and Zero Hedge, and then slapped fact checks on 200,000 plus videos questioning voting machines or fraud pertaining to the 2020 elections. Big names like Dan Bongino, Rand Paul, and even Jordan Peterson chatting with RFK Jr. were targeted or demonetized, and now Google is offering a rejoin invite to those booted over the pandemic or election talks. To quote Google, "It's unacceptable and wrong when any government attempts to dictate how companies moderate content." For more, follow me on X, @ChuckPalm.
Midweek Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
After trailing Detroit by 15.5 games in July and by 12.5 games just a month ago, the Guardians beat the Tigers last night 5-2 to tie them for the lead in the AL Central and clinch the tiebreaker for Cleveland for the division title with 5 games to play. Gavin Williams outdueled Cy Young favorite Tarek Skubal, striking out 12. The Mariners got a bases-clearing double from Josh Naylor in the 8th to squeak past the Rockies and clinch a playoff berth. The Yankees are in the postseason as well. They scored twice in the bottom of the 9th to shade the White Sox. Aaron Judge likes their chances.
It's going to be a fun postseason. You know, we got the right guys, we got the right mindset, and that's what I think it really takes is, having the right mindset and doing the little things, the little details will help you win ball games in October.
The Red Sox beat the first-place Blue Jays. Boston still aiming at a wild card. A's down the Astros. Houston currently on the outside of the playoff window looking in. National League Mets overpowered the Cubs. Pirates doubled up the Reds, and the Diamondbacks got 2 in the 9th for a walk-off win over the Dodgers. So New York has a 1-game lead over Cincinnati and Arizona for the last NL playoff berth. Padres blanked the Brewers on 4 hits, Ryan O'Hearn with a grand slam, and MLB announced it will implement an automated ball strike challenge system next year. Batters, pitchers, and catchers will be allowed to activate the system, which allows 2 challenges per team per game. And if you win a challenge, you get to keep it. That's Wednesday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, the lure of Elvis Presley memorabilia puts one woman behind bars. After these messages. Jimmy Kimmel has made his return to late-night television following a suspension that lasted just under a week. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has details of the Tuesday night show and reaction, a program that was not carried by every ABC television network affiliate. Audio courtesy Jimmy Kimmel Live.
This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Jimmy Kimmel returned to late night on ABC.
But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
Jimmy Kimmel Live was suspended indefinitely by ABC following comments about the motives of the man who was accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Free speech advocate and podcaster Joe Rogan finally broke his silence on Tuesday to give his thoughts on the incident during his latest podcast.
I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say.
After the news broke about Kimmel's return, other late-night talk show hosts like Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, and Stephen Colbert voiced their support.
Young Jimmy Kimmel's coming back to television.
If you asked Americans if the president should be dictating what TV hosts can and can't say, you'd get about 3% positive and
97% negative.
Once more, I am the only martyr in late nights. Wait, unless CBS, you want to announce anything?
Still, Kimmel's show was not available to everyone. Sinclair Broadcasting Group and Nexstar Media Group are continuing their boycott of the network show from their affiliate stations. Those viewers can still access the clips online, which according to an AP and NORC poll is where the majority of Americans actually view late-night television content. I'm Kevin Carr.
A woman from Missouri will spend nearly 5 years in federal prison for attempting to auction off a piece of American history. Correspondent Jennifer King reports on an elaborate scheme set up by a scammer who tried to put Elvis Presley's Graceland home up for bids.
She tried to auction off Elvis Presley's Graceland estate. Now Lisa Janine Findley, a Missouri woman who pled guilty to mail fraud as part of the scheme, has been sentenced to 4 years and 9 months in prison, handed down by a judge at a federal court in Memphis. Findley falsely claimed Presley's late daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, borrowed $3.8 million and had pledged Graceland as collateral for the loan before her death in 2023. Findley allegedly posed as 3 different people involved with a fake lender, fabricated loan documents, and even published a fraudulent foreclosure notice in a Memphis newspaper announcing the auction. Presley's granddaughter actor Riley Keough, who inherited the home, filed a lawsuit and a judge stopped the sale. Experts were baffled by the attempt to use phony documents to try and sell one of the most famous pieces of real estate in the U.S. The Graceland Museum in Memphis, Tennessee, draws hundreds of thousands of visitors each year. I'm Jennifer King.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.